We've just had the biggest news in the offseason so far with Alcaraz and Juan Ferrero splitting and not working together in the future.
Now, Juan Carlos also took to Instagram, posting a statement starting with, "Saying goodbye is never easy, especially when there are so many shared experiences behind it." Going on to say, "Today, a very important chapter of my life comes to an end. I close it with nostalgia, but also with pride and excitement for what may come next. I know that everything I have lived has prepared me for the better." Juan then goes on to thank Carlos for his trust and effort and calls the team special. And then in closing says, "We have been an incredible team despite the difficulties, and I am sure you will continue to achieve great success. I wish I could have continued. I am convinced that good memories and good people always find a way to cross paths again. Thank you from the bottom of my heart."
Juan Carlos Ferrero just broke his silence about splitting with Carlos Alcaraz, and the message he posted reveals way more than you think. The words he chose are loaded with emotion and hints about what actually went down. Ferrero said things that suggest this wasn't his decision at all. Tennis fans are analyzing every sentence, and the implications are massive for both of their futures. Before we break down what Ferrero actually said and what it means, drop a comment. Do you think Alcaraz made a mistake ending this partnership? Or was it time for both of them to move on? Let me know where you stand on this.
Obviously, the line that sticks out in his statement is, "I wish I could have continued." So, thoughts?
So, I don't know anything. I'm reacting just off of feelings and trying to put the pieces together. This doesn't, like, from Juan Carlos' statement, and then JW always knows more about this stuff than I do. But from Juan Carlos' statement saying, you know, what may come next, I'm excited about what may come next. That is not this thing of, hey, I'm tapped out, I want to get away from something. It doesn't sound as if he's like a Cahill 6 months ago, right? It was like, I just need to be done. I think I'm done with tennis. I need to be home more. It felt like a very personal, sober, I'm walking away type thing. JCF's statement didn't sound that way. It sounded like he's kind of, what projects may come next. You know, I wish I could have continued.
Juan Carlos Ferrero finally responded to the bombshell announcement that he and Carlos Alcaraz are splitting up after 7 years together. And if you read his statement carefully, it's pretty clear that this wasn't his choice. The tone, the wording, the emotion, everything about what Ferrero said suggests he would have preferred to continue working with Alcaraz, but was essentially pushed out or mutually agreed to leave despite wanting to stay. Let's break down exactly what he said and what it really means.
Today is a difficult day. One of those when it's hard to find the right words. Saying goodbye is never easy, especially when there are so many shared experiences behind it. We have worked hard, grown together, and shared unforgettable moments. I want to thank you for the time, the trust, the learning, and above all, for the people who have surrounded me throughout this journey. I take with me laughter, challenges overcome, conversations, support during difficult moments, and the satisfaction of having been part of something truly unique. Today, a very important chapter of my life comes to an end. I close it with nostalgia, but also with pride and excitement for what may come next. I know that everything I have lived has prepared me to be better. Thank you, Carlos, for the trust, the effort, and making your way of competing make me feel so special.
Ferrero started by saying, "Today is a difficult day, one of those when it's hard to find the right words. That's not the language of someone who's excited about a new chapter or ready to move on. That's the language of someone processing a loss. When coaching relationships end naturally and amicably, because both sides are ready for something different, you don't start with, 'It's hard to find the right words.' You start with excitement about the future or gratitude for what was accomplished." Ferrero sounds hurt, which tells you this wasn't his preferred outcome.
I wish you all the best both professionally and personally. I would also like to thank the entire team for making my work easier throughout all these years. With you, I have learned that work is not just about tasks and results, but about the people who walk alongside you. Each and every one of you has left a mark on me that I will never forget. We have been an incredible team despite the difficulties, and I'm sure you will continue to achieve great success. I wish I could have continued. I'm convinced that good memories and good people always find a way to cross paths again. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
He went on to say, "Saying goodbye is never easy, especially when there are so many shared experiences behind it." Again, that's someone who didn't want to say goodbye. He's acknowledging that this is happening, but he's framing it as difficult and emotional. Compare that to how athletes usually talk about coaching changes they initiated. When a player fires a coach because they want something different, they focus on the future and the new direction they're taking. When a coach gets pushed out, they focus on the past and what they're leaving behind. Ferrero is clearly doing the latter. The next part is where it gets really interesting. Ferrero said, "We have worked hard, grown together, and shared unforgettable moments. I want to thank you for the time, the trust, the learning, and above all for the people who have surrounded me throughout this journey." Notice how he's thanking Alcaraz for the trust. That's significant. Trust is something that gets built over years and can be broken in an instant. By specifically mentioning trust, Ferrero might be hinting that something happened to damage that trust, or that Alcaraz decided he needed someone else he trusted more in a different way. He continued, "I take with me laughter, challenges overcome, conversations, support during difficult moments, and the satisfaction of having been part of something truly unique." That's a beautiful sentiment, but it's also defensive. It's him reminding everyone, and maybe reminding Alcaraz, of everything they accomplished together. It's saying, "Look at all the good things we did. Look at how much we shared. This was special." You don't need to say that if the split is truly mutual and both sides are happy about it. You say that when you want people to remember your contributions and not forget what you brought to the table.
And it's really interesting to see the end there where he said he would like to continue. So we don't know exactly who split with who or who had this discussion, or maybe it was a mutual thing where they both decided, Alcaraz needed something different and Juan Carlos wanted to coach somebody else or maybe do something different in his life. Obviously coaching full-time away from family is a big deal for a lot of these coaches. I mean, we talk about Darren Cahill and Jannik Sinner. Darren Cahill, I think, is still going for another year, but, there are times where those two have said, maybe it's the end of the road here. So maybe it's a similar situation. We don't know until we see what Alcaraz has to say in a press conference.
Then comes the really telling line. "Today, a very important chapter of my life comes to an end. I close it with nostalgia, but also with pride and excitement for what may come next." Nostalgia and pride? Sure. But excitement? That feels forced. That feels like someone trying to convince themselves and everyone else that they're okay with this decision, even though they're clearly not. When someone is genuinely excited about the future, they don't bury it at the end of a paragraph after talking about how sad they are about the past. Ferrero's message to Alcaraz specifically is where the emotions really come through. He wrote, "Thank you, Carlos, for the trust, the effort, and making your way of competing make me feel so special. I wish you all the best both professionally and personally." That's incredibly gracious, but there's also an undercurrent of sadness. He's thanking Alcaraz for making him feel special, which suggests he's worried that his contributions might be forgotten or undervalued. He's wishing him the best, which is standard in these situations, but the whole tone feels like someone who got dumped and is trying to maintain dignity while processing the rejection. He also thanked the entire team, saying, "With you, I have learned that work is not just about tasks and results, but about the people who walk alongside you. Each and every one of you has left a mark on me that I will never forget. We've been an incredible team despite the difficulties, and I'm sure you will continue to achieve great success." That phrase, "despite the difficulties," is interesting. What difficulties? Was there internal tension? Were there disagreements about training methods or scheduling? Was there friction between Ferrero and other members of the team? That one phrase opens up a lot of questions about what was happening behind the scenes that we didn't see. And then comes the absolute smoking gun that proves Ferrero didn't want this split. He wrote, "I wish I could have continued." There it is. Plain as day. He's admitting publicly that he wanted to keep working with Alcaraz but couldn't or wasn't allowed to. That's not mutual. That's not both sides agreeing it's time to move on. That's one side, Ferrero, being told or convinced that the partnership needs to end even though he disagreed. Think about how rare it is for a coach to publicly say, "I wish I could have continued" after a split. Usually, coaches protect their own reputations by saying it was time for a change or that they're excited about new opportunities. They don't admit that they wanted to stay but weren't given the choice. Ferrero either doesn't care about maintaining that professional facade, or he's so hurt by this decision that he couldn't help but be honest about his feelings. Either way, it completely changes the narrative around this split. He ended with, "I'm convinced that good memories and good people always find a way to cross paths again. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. That's him leaving the door open for a potential reunion in the future, which suggests he thinks this split might be temporary or that circumstances could change. It's also him being incredibly classy despite clearly being devastated by this outcome. So what actually happened here? Based on Ferrero's response, it seems pretty clear that Alcaraz decided he wanted to make a change, and Ferrero respected that decision even though he didn't agree with it. Maybe Alcaraz felt like he needed a new voice or a different perspective to take the next step in his career. Maybe there were disagreements about training methods or scheduling that created friction. Maybe someone in Alcaraz's inner circle convinced him that a change was necessary. We don't know the specific reason, but we know Ferrero wasn't the one pushing for this. The question now is, what happens next for both of them? For Alcaraz, he still has Samuel Lopez on his team, who's been there for years and was co-coach of the year with Ferrero in 2025. Lopez could step into the lead role, or Alcaraz could bring in someone entirely new. There are plenty of big-name coaches available. Carlos Moya, who coached Rafael Nadal for years, is out there. Other former top players who have transitioned into coaching might be interested. Alcaraz has options, but replacing Ferrero is going to be incredibly difficult regardless of who he hires. Ferrero wasn't just a tactical coach. He was a mentor, a father figure, someone who understood Alcaraz on a deep personal level because they'd worked together since Alcaraz was 14 years old. That kind of relationship can't be replicated immediately. Whoever comes in next will need time to build trust and understanding, and there's no guarantee that chemistry will ever match what Ferrero and Alcaraz had. For Ferrero, this opens up new possibilities. He could take some time off and focus on his academy, which is one of the best in Spain. He could coach another top player if someone approaches him. He's proven he can develop a champion, so there will be interest. Or he could decide he's done with the constant travel and pressure of coaching at the elite level and do something completely different. Based on his statement, it sounds like he would have preferred to keep coaching Alcaraz, but now that that's off the table, he'll have to figure out what's next. The timing of this split is what makes it so shocking. Alcaraz just had the best season of his career. 71 wins, 8 titles, 2 Grand Slams. Everything was working. And yet here we are, with the coaching partnership that produced all that success ending abruptly. That suggests something significant changed in their relationship, or their vision for the future. You don't blow up something that's working unless you have a compelling reason. Some people are speculating that Alcaraz wanted more freedom or less structure. Maybe he felt like Ferrero was too controlling or too conservative in his approach. Young players sometimes outgrow their coaches, not because the coach isn't good, but because the player wants to assert more independence and make their own decisions. That could be what's happening here. Alcaraz is 22 years old. He's not a teenager anymore. He might want more input into his training and scheduling and strategy. Others think there might have been specific disagreements about how to handle certain situations. Maybe Ferrero wanted Alcaraz to skip certain tournaments to rest and avoid injury, and Alcaraz wanted to play more. Maybe they disagreed about shot selection or tactical adjustments. Maybe there were conflicts about how to handle the media or sponsorship obligations. Small disagreements can build up over time and eventually reach a breaking point. There's also the possibility that someone outside the player-coach relationship influenced this decision. Maybe Alcaraz's parents or other advisors felt like a change was needed. Maybe they thought Ferrero had taken Alcaraz as far as he could, and that someone else could help him reach an even higher level. Third-party influence is often a factor in coaching changes, especially with young players who are still figuring out how to manage their careers. Whatever the reason, Ferrero's response makes it clear that this wasn't his preferred outcome. He wanted to continue. He believed they still had more to accomplish together. But ultimately, in a player-coach relationship, the player has all the power. If Alcaraz decided it was time for a change, Ferrero had to respect that even if he disagreed. That's the reality of coaching at this level. Your job security depends entirely on one person's satisfaction, and there's nothing you can do if they decide they want someone else. So there you have it. Juan Carlos Ferrero didn't hold back in revealing he wanted to continue coaching Alcaraz, which tells you this split wasn't his choice. The fallout from this decision will define both of their futures. If you want to follow this story as it develops, smash that like button and subscribe. Who do you think made the right call here? Drop your opinion below.